Hello everyone. So in this video we will see the abstract routing data source in a Spring Boot, and we use the multiple data sources based on the context or maybe any other key that will choose the database at a runtime. Like we have a three or four different database, and we do not want to like in a conventional way we are just uh, we have separate repository and then we'll call it. Here we just check at the time of the request, like we have a multiple request for multiple microservice rather than we have a one common request. This is just an example, a common request, and based on the key or header or any other values in the path variables, we want to choose the database dynamically rather than in a traditional static way. So I'll show how it works over here in this video, and then so basically the abstract routing data source, like it enables a dynamic routing of database connection to a different underlying data sources time, as I discussed previously. So it's an abstract class that you extend to create a custom routing logic based on a specific criteria. We have seen the routing logic happens in the request, but this is not that much. But it's pretty similar concept. Like we are routing the data source based on the keys. All right. So now let us understand the key components of this whole program and all, how it works. So we have first of all target data sources. It's nothing but a map, a simple hash map of available data sources, each associated with a lookup key. So for example, we have say London database and New York database with the same kind of table. Then we have a lookup key, say for example DB1, or lookup key for the New York database DB2, for London DB1. So you can configure this map using the set target data source method. We'll see in the coding side. Then we have lookup key, that is the second key component of that. So that is a value that determines which data source to use for a given request. And it is typically obtained from a thread bound context holder. That is, we'll see that thread local variable that is based on that, and we have a switch the context on the basis of the key. Then we have a context holder. So a context holder is nothing but a component that stores the current lookup key in a thread local variable. I already discussed on that. So you implement this to manage the context based on or your application logic. Again, I will show how it works. Then we have a routing logic. So we override the determine current lookup key. Again, I will show in the program later on this same video, and that method in your custom class to implement the routing logic. So this method retrieves the lookup key from the context holder and returns it. So how exactly it works in a summary, if I would say, then when a request comes in, the get connection method of the abstract routing source is called, and it invokes the determine the current lookup key to fetch the lookup key. It uses the lookup key to retrieve the appropriate data source from the target data source map, and then it returns the connection from the selected data source. So for what we'll do first of all in this video, first of all we'll create from the scratch, that will create two different data sources on say any VM, Unix VM in the cloud. Especially I prefer GCP, and then we create both the database in the same VM, but we have different ports. So it's this guys to be a different database, all that. And physically, in fact, they are a different database, but they are in the same machine. That's Unix. All right, and then after we'll create a Spring Boot application. I will show all the configuration of the abstract routing data source, and then we'll successfully try to implement this logic. So let's get started. Now let us first of all create a VM, and then we'll install the MySQL and PostgreSQL on the same VM using the Docker. So first of all, I'll just click on this create VM in the GCP, that is Google Cloud Platform dashboard. So click on create VM, or you can search for here Compute Engine, and then also you can create the VM. So I'll just click the create instance. I'll go with the default, and I'll just change this operating system to Ubuntu, and click on select, go with this, and rest of the things. go with the default. Just click on create. Now just edit this VM and we'll allow this firewall, and firewall has two port, TCP 3306 and TCP 5432. So both the only these two ports should be allowed to access with the username and password. So that is again based on the database. So I'll just copy firewall and I'll just do an edit instance, and here in the network text just add it and we'll save it. Once it is saved, now let's go back to the Compute Engine and click on this SSH so that we can log in into the machine and we can install the necessary packages and install the MySQL and PostgreSQL. Alright, so now let me expand it and sudo su using the admin login, and first of all let's update the package. Apt update, this is a command to update the. Once the update is done, then another command is upgrade. Say yes. Once upgrade is done, just apt install docker. Okay. Once the docker is done, so now let us I'll just install uh, MySQL using this docker run simple MySQL command. And if you do not know any sort of a command, you can simply go and ask the ChatGPT. It will give you the perfect command. So docker command, and there's only one required parameter environment is a MySQL root password, that is root 123. Okay. So now let's check whether MySQL is running. Yeah, it's running. And now what we can do is simply um, run our container, get into this container, and then MySQL, because our password root password is uh, -u, that is user root, and -p for password. So our password is root 123. Now we are inside that. Now we can create uh, users DB database. We can use it, use users DB, and then we can create a table. Simply I'm just running this table. It has a 6 column ID, first name, last name, email, role, and city. Okay, and I'll also insert five rows. So we can see all this database has a single, a very different city name is London. So this is a database related to London. So users, and we'll create a similar database in the PostgreSQL where we have city in a New York City, so that we can differentiate the two database based on the data. All right. So currently we have MySQL is ready. Now let's go for PostgreSQL. All right. Postgres has a similar command that docker run detach port 5432, the name, the container name, and then environment variable is a Postgres password, Postgres 123, and environment is a Postgres DB. So we are already creating a DB at the time of the runtime. Let's use this DB at the time of creating the database. And so now let's get into the machine or container, I would say. So now we are inside the container and the database user DB. So I'll create a similar table and similar rows, except for the city will be now New York City. So this is a table similar to a MySQL, and now we have a city called New York City on that. Just a second. Now let us insert the statement. and let's select star from users. So we have the similar data, but except for the city is little different. So that was a London database, I would say, and this is a New York database. And based on the context, we will choose the data source dynamically using the abstract routing data source in Spring Boot. All right, now let us create a Spring Boot project. So I'll just go with the start.spring.io, choose the Maven, and I'll choose the default Spring Boot. We'll go with the very default one, except for this, I'll just add web dependency and click on generate, or I would say simply changing the name of say routing DS demo and again generate. So in that, just go with this, and uh, I'll just paste into some folder example. Yes, let's do it. And we have to extract this it. Okay, so routing DS demo. I'll just copy that, and inside that I'll just open IntelliJ. It's not a multiple deal. I'm just looking for the routing demo. Yeah. All right. Open. Okay. Examples. Let's again try. Yeah. So now, so this is project, new window, and here we go. So now, first of all, we'll also add a library for both MySQL as well as PostgreSQL. So first of all, let's add the JPA library, and then MySQL connector, and then Postgres library here. Okay. All right. So now let us compile with Maven. Let's do a Maven refresh. Okay. All right. So now let's go to the package, and we'll create one by one classes. So first of all, I'll just do a config package, and here I just simply create to database. Say for example Java class. So it will be an enum. So client database, and I'll simply say okay, uh, db1, db1 and db2. Yeah. So the first one represent the London database, or second one would be the New York database. All right, and we have to declare enum. So we are done. Now we'll create a context, so that the context will be switching the database between the D1, DB1 and DB2. It will change the context, and it contains the thread local variable, right? So now I simply create a class called uh, simply so client data with context holder. So this will hold the context, and we'll have to create so first of all we'll create a thread local database, a thread local variable. There's a client database so that we can switch easily, and then we'll set the client database over here, and then we'll all have the static method, so we can, without instantiating we can directly call them. And then we have a context.get method, and then context.clear all the whatever the context currently there, so either with db1 or db2, then we can clear it. All right, now we'll also create another class called which extends the abstract routing data source, and which determines the current lookup. So it will see which currently it is the data source currently using this context, whether it's a DB1 or DB2. It will use this current lookup key, and it will actually, the as per this method is showing itself, just determine the current lookup key over there, and it will get the database or data source in the basic word, I would say. And then we'll have another class, I would say data source config. Okay, so now let us annotate with configuration. Okay, and then we'll do something. Now we want the both the database information related to what are the basic. So I'll just copy from my previous example. So we have a basic JDBC URL, username, password, and private class name. Now we just need to change what most of the things are pretty similar. Like we have root 123 and Postgres 123. We just need to check this IP address. What was the IP address? Yeah. So this is the IP address. This is 211, and in the IntelliJ, I'll just change this IP address. So now, if you want this all this property over there, then we need an environment variable, right? So I'll just go with don't worry about this comment. They are with the GitHub Copilot I'm using. So now private environment. Um, this is environment, and then so this environment will take all the properties from the application.properties, and it contains all that so that we can get it programmatically. Okay, so now we'll create a bean, and that bean name would be data source router, and we'll just create a public data source router. So here we'll create a map, and even the we'll call this create all the both the database. So what I will do, simply create a map, and a map is object. There's a target data sources. So how many data sources are that you have? You can use this map, and we'll store over there. We can use this map to get and put the values of the data source based on the key that we have already seen the client database. That's a DB1 and DB2. And then whenever we want, we can use that key to get the object. All right. So now let's say data source. Okay. All right. So we have this data source, and now we have data source 1 is equal to data source builder dot create, and then we set every property like user URL, and these all properties are from coming from application dot properties. So we are creating URL, username, password, and finally we will build the database. So similarly for the PostgreSQL, we are doing the same thing, and then we'll add the first one into target database, the second one into this target data source map. All right, and then now let's create a router. So client data source router is equal to client data source router, and then we'll first we need to put all the data sources, the map of the data sources, and then we'll have to do the default data sources at the time of the application running the first time, right? And then we'll return the router. All right, it's very simple again. All right. Now because we have database columns, we already have ID, name, in fact ID, first name, last name, email, role, and the city. So what I will do is I'll just create a package called model, and we'll create a user. So this user is nothing to do with the security user, that's a separate one. User, and it has okay, so name, role, ID, name, email, password, role, and we'll have city as well. Okay, and city, and then we have setter and getter for the city as well. Okay, right. So model has also been created. Now let us create a service. So now we'll create a service package, and then we'll create a Java class called user service, annotate with the service, and here we will use a just I just want to show the demo, so we'll use a JDBC template directly over here. So first of all, just auto wire with the default data source. Okay, and then I would say public list, and we will have users. So this is our users, and get users. So now we have two kind of database, like again MySQL and Postgres. In MySQL, the London database are there, users related to London activity, and the same user we have on a New York site. So whatever coming from the Postgres are all the New York database, and whatever are coming from the London. So depending upon the path variable, we will decide a path variable. Based on the city, we will get the data and different. So what we'll do, I'll just make a parameter as a city. So depending upon the city, in our case, this don't worry about design and all. I'm just want to show that if the city equal ignore case London, then client data source dot set, and if you remember this, we have as a context holder, so it will set dynamically that which data source should be set at the runtime. Okay, and if the city is New York, then you choose the DB2, which is representing the Postgres, and this will representing the MySQL, that is a London one. All right, so now what I will do is JDBC template, and we already have a data source. Okay, now so data source is based switch between this London and New York, and then so what I will do is simply um, we have a JDBC. Now let us SQL select start from user, and then we have all the setters variable based on this ID, first name, last name, email, role, and city. Okay, we do not have setters for everyone. It should be. What is the user that we are taking? Okay. Oh, we have only get method. So let's remove and generate everything. Start. Generate setters and getters, and we have now everything. Let's go to the user service. So everything is fine. Now what is happening in the first name? Oh, again I did one mistake. This is first name, and this is last name. Okay, and then we'll generate through IntelliJ getters and setters. Now everything is resolved. So we have now everything, and we will return the users. Okay, all right. So now Now let's create a controller. Chakras, uh, let's make it a package controller, and then I'll simply say app controller. Okay, and let's annotate it with a REST controller. Okay, and now I'll simply say API and then slash and make a path variable as city. Okay, and I simply say get users and list of users. Okay, and then we'll do an auto-wire user service and return simply the service that get users based on a city. So now we'll have a path variable and city and the city, then we'll pass this city over here. Okay, then we'll get the data from user service. Now let us run the application and check. So application started. Now let's go to the browser, and what I will do is I just localhost API and I'll just check with London. So we have a London, and this is coming from MySQL. And if I say New York, let's wait for some time because the first time now you can see the from New York. So again, if I call a London, then it is a MySQL database is called, and if I say New York, then it's calling the PostgreSQL. So dynamically we can call the data source, and using this abstract routing source facilities provided by, and that is an provided by Spring itself, so we can rely on that. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.